What's going on, guys? Another knife review here for you. This is of the Benchmade 755 Mini Pocket Rocket MPR. This is a collaboration between Shane Seibert and Benchmade. And I was first introduced to this knife a long time ago when I first started getting into knife collecting at a knife store. And I was just, during this time I was kind of into Benchmades. I think Benchmade had the reputation. Since then I've kind of moved away from Benchmade, mainly because I'm not that huge of a fan of axis locks. But I don't have it with me right now, but the 760 LFTI, it's a knife that I've brought up a number of times in my reviews. I think it's a great execution of the frame lock. Benchmade, they call the frame lock the monolock. So Benchmade's kind of silly in doing that. I don't know why they don't give credit where credit's due. But I'm just gonna call it frame lock, the CRK frame lock. They execute frame locks, I think, pretty well in terms of what I've seen. I think the 750, the old frame lock, kind of like the Sebenza. I forgot what that one's called, but then again the LFTI, and then this knife here. When I first saw this knife in the knife store, I thought it was so ugly. It had a satin finish. I think the scales were a bit lighter at the time, and just the way it contrasted against the silver steel and things like that, it didn't impress me at all. It was really smooth, I remember that. But again, it was also tip down carry, so I wasn't a big fan of that either. So anyway, after a year or so of more experience in collecting, most recently Triple Aught Design. So if you guys are knife junkies, you guys all know Triple Aught Design. They recently came out with, or introduced, the Shane Seibert collaboration for their Dauntless. And so Triple Aught Designs, they're doing really cool things, and now they're allowing people to have a chance at getting into a lottery to get picked to buy the knives. And so Tad, they were basically selling the Seibert Dauntless for $1,150. It was the one with the bolster lock, and titanium bolsters on each side. Had the same style green scale. Had an S35 VN blade that was 3.15 inches long. Okay, so it was a pretty small knife. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was about 7 points. Let me look it up really quick. Overall length was about 7.5 inches, so it was a pretty small knife. Obviously, it was a Seibert custom, and obviously it was a Dauntless. So put those things together, and you're talking about an inordinately crazy priced knife. So even at $1,150, it's somewhat reasonable. But in the secondary market, this knife is going to command somewhere in the range of, I've heard, around $5,000, which completely blows me away. But $3,000 I think is in the secondary market might be reasonable. So in terms of its rarity, anyway, so got me thinking. As I entered into that lottery, this collaboration between Shane Seibert and Benchmade looks so not the same, obviously, but it looks so similar to that Dauntless. That Dauntless didn't have a secondary choil like most Dauntlesses do. Here's my Dauntless right here. So you can see the the style of the Dauntless. Anyway, so his Seibert was overbuilt styled knife, and again, it looked very similar with the bolster lock, with the scale on here, the green scale, and the blade shape as well. It had the fuller, and really the only thing that it had that was different was the titanium bolster on this side and the 3 fullers on the G10 scale. Again, it was S35 VN steel. So as you think about this collaboration between Benchmade and Shane Seibert, this knife, in my opinion, is maybe like superior. Well, okay, no, don't quote me on that. It's not a perfect knife in that it's a production knife, okay? But in terms of what you get on this knife versus that custom Dauntless that Seibert made, you're talking about M390 blade steel. You're talking about a blade stock of 0.164, so over 4 mils thick of blade stock of M390. Are you serious? 2.9-inch blade, which is, so 0.2 inches shorter than the Dauntless. Titanium frame lock, 6AL 4V standard titanium, blade stock. And mine's the black coated, which I love. The contrast on here. They use all the black hardware. The Seibert Dauntless had tip up carry, which was definitely one great thing. This one only comes with a tip down clip. This is an awesome clip, but it's only tip down for mounting. So yeah, so I took it off for now, and I might use it for, I'm probably going to use it for this Dauntless, as my friend Jen Crade did on his Dauntless, and I thought it was a really, really cool mod for the Dauntless. So I'm going to do that because I really hate the Dauntless deep carry pocket clip. It's really weak, and I'll talk about it in my review of the Dauntless down the road. But this knife, dude, I freaking love this knife now. It was weird that I hated it before, but yeah, when you compare it to that Dauntless, I was just thinking, you're getting such an amazing value out of this knife, especially if you can find it on the secondary market, for cheap. And I got this one for crazy cheap, like ridiculously cheap, and I could not be happier. This knife is so smooth. I did take it apart and re-greased everything in here. It was weird because it was, I think, because it was so new. I got this knife new from the guy from USN, and it was new, and the ball bearing, the detent was starting to kind of wear away at the coating, so you can kind of see where the silver is. And so like that coating was kind of starting to build up around, and so as I would open it, as it would hit like around here on the rotation, it would start getting a little bit tight. So anyway, opened it up, cleaned it up, greased it up, and now it's just back to like ridiculously smooth. And it was starting to stick a little bit, so I carbonized the lock face, and now it's, no side to side, no up and down whatsoever. And lockup is it's just rock solid. It's perfect. I'll talk about that notch in a second. There's actually been quite a few reviews. This knife was released back in 2010, and so some good reviews out there that you can watch. And they talked about a number of things in regards to this knife that I'll just touch on a little bit. The first thing, and maybe one of the most important things, is that on the back, that stop pin right there is hexagonal. So you have these multi-sides, multi-facets on the stop pin, and that can be rotated. And so if you know anything about knives and how they lock up, the lockup on the frame where it engages with the tang, and then on the stop pin with the top side of the tang here, they have to match up perfectly. And over time, if the titanium is soft and starts wearing down, then you develop lock rock. And so this option allows for you to turn the stop pin around just ever so slightly, so that there's a little bit more material that's engaging with the tang. And so that allows it to stop a little bit earlier, and then the lock bar will engage a little bit earlier as well. So this knife actually probably moved over maybe another millimeter or millimeter and a half over this way. And so when I cleaned it out, then I rotated the stop pin ever so slightly. So now the lockup is a little bit earlier, which I like. And now that it's carbonized, it's extremely smooth. Given the fact that it's basically a bolster lock, with this G10 scale right here, it serves as a lock bar over travel system. Not a stabilizer, but over travel, and so that's nice, and that's integrated in there. It just flips out super smooth. Basic phosphor bronze washers in here. You do have a smaller bronze washer and then a large bronze washer on this side. This is kind of this pivot pin. I think it's more trying to make it seem like it's beefy. Inside it's still relatively a thin barrel, or just kind of your standard barrel that this blade is rotating around. But the tolerances actually are pretty tight on this knife. Hence, no blade play and those kinds of things. Really great. And I like to just hold this knife like upside down like this, and you can just flip it out so easily. So the detent on this blade is not the best. I mean, you can kind of shake it out like that, kind of, effortlessly. But at the same time, it's good enough to be able to flip. It's not going to open up in your pocket. My plan is to be able to just drop this in my pocket, or maybe put it in the coin pocket or watch pocket on my jeans as a heavy-duty secondary folder, or even as a primary folder. I think there'd be times where I just bring this, and I really like it. Before, like I said, I used to really hate this green, but it's really grown on me, and I think part of it, just the contrasting colors between this and the titanium, the dark gray titanium, is great. With the black blade is also awesome. I think part of it, again, was just how similar it looked to the Dauntless. I kind of wanted to keep it the same. Originally, I was going to get Rit dye. I wanted to Rit dye my Spyderco Southern, and then Rit dye this. Just make it black. Just have a kind of a murdered out black knife Seabird. So I'm still deciding behind that, between this and the green. But the green really is growing on me a lot now, and so yeah. Oh, one other thing is that this is. I'm pretty sure it's like a Strider, where it's one piece of G10. I don't see any seam whatsoever in here, and so that's a pretty cool feature as well. So another just sturdy build in terms of this knife. When I took it apart, all this stayed together. These are just pins that go through, and then the screws go into here, and then it's secured. The bolster is secured by these screws. Right here. So anyway, overall, this I'm loving this knife. As a tip down carry knife, when I had the clip installed, it was pretty uncomfortable. For me, tip down is just on the right side just sucks. Every time you drag your hand down your pocket, it always just scratches, whether on the thumb stud or on the top of the frame right here. It's just really uncomfortable. Tip up would be great in here. It is a very thick knife, so you can see how much thicker than, say, the Sebenza. So even when it's sitting in your pocket, it sticks out, even as small of a knife as it is. So really quick size comparison for you guys. Here's the Three Sisters Forge Beast. So similar size blade. This is a 3-inch blade versus 2.9, but smaller handle, so it packs a lot of blade for the handle. The large Sebenza, here's a Strider S&G CC. So you can see, hard use, supposedly hard use knife in the Strider. You got the Zero Tolerance 551 Kinder collaboration. It's also a somewhat hard use knife. Again, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite knives, like secondary EDC knives. Great. It was like super sharp coming out of the box as well. So Benchmade did a good job with this bevel on the sharpening. So yeah, I am quickly becoming a Seibert fan, and you know, if I can get a hold of one of his pocket rockets, I would just jump at the opportunity, because yeah, it's such a capable blade. Again, with M390 versus the Dauntless with S35VN, you can't go wrong with that. M390 is such an awesome steel. So, all right. So anyway, that's my quick thoughts on the Benchmade 755 MPR from Shane Seibert. Cool blade. And you just get so much in it for the price if you can find it at the right one. Alright, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, guys. You guys take care, and I'll see you on the next vid. Bye.